Hey everyone, welcome to Love Story. I am your host, Yandea, and tonight we are going to have a very special little Q&A. So I'm just going to wait a little bit longer for some other people to pop in. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. But I do have a reoccurring question that I've been receiving over the past week, and so I want to just kind of talk about it, just talk about it on here and see if we could get some feedback, on this topic. It is obviously about love, and let me just see who's in the chat with us today. Good evening, Marianne. Okay. And I think I may actually do this for a little bit too. If I'm getting these reoccurring questions about a certain topic, especially if it's to do with love or, just trying to live a more fulfilling life or any of these type of things, anything that could be helpful, I think that I will maybe use the Q&A time to respond to some of these questions, right? Because if that many people are asking, if it's coming up so much, then maybe it's something that the collective consciousness may be dealing with, and I could, give a little bit of advice. Maybe something would be helpful in whatever it is that I share. So, okay. Like always, please let me know if you are watching this this podcast, Love Story. Let me know where you're watching from. What part of the world are you in? Let me know if you're enjoying the podcast. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to this channel, please do so. I appreciate everyone who supports. It encourages me and it keeps me, keeps me going to just to know that you're enjoying this and that it's beneficial, that it's helpful to you. So please don't be shy. Like I said, always, if you have something you want to share, if you have your opinion on the topic, a question about the topic, something to share that's going to give, more insight on whatever it is that we're talking about, please don't be shy. Leave a comment at the bottom or a question. So let's see, I see a few people are watching. So, okay, the question is about love. Now, this question has popped up quite a few different ways by both men and women. And the question, it pertains to, I'll give you one example. One example was, what if you give love and they abuse it or don't appreciate it? What should I do? Right? And another person, actually other people kind of asked the same question. Hey, Dwayne. And asked the same question. If you see me looking over here, it's just because the chat is on this side. So yes. So other people asked the same question. It seems like we're getting into this feeling, and even one woman said, I'm gonna leave my partner and so on because of this whole thing of, not feeling appreciated, or this whole idea of we're giving love to people, whatever it is that we are calling love, we're giving it and we're feeling like it's not being reciprocated, or like love is being abused, or we're being abused, or it's a waste of our time. So what do you do when you give love to someone and they don't return that love? Should you stay in that relationship? This is the kind of questions people are asking. They're looking for guidance to know whether or not they should stay in these relationships, or whether or not they should, in their words, continue just loving and being, you know, feeling like they're being abused or like they're a doormat, you know. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that today. Let's see. Hello, Dwayne said he loves the braids. Yeah, I just washed my hair and I put it in some plaits. But yes, family. So if you have any experience in this sort of a situation where, you know, you're loving somebody, you're doing your best to love them the best way you know how, and then you feel like they're abusing your love or they're taking your love for granted, you know, should you stay in that relationship? And first of all, before answering that question, I think that we have to always, well, there's a couple things, but I think we have to always look at our own selves, right? So first of all, what is our definition of love, right? What are we calling love? Where have we learned this idea of love from? Is it from like the movies? Is it from, you know, our parents? Sometimes we experience something very negative in our childhood and we say, well, that's not love. And so we think the exact opposite of that thing will be love, right? And so, for example, if you were a little, you know, when you were little, your mother or your father, every time you asked for something, they said no, right? Every time you, can I have a candy? No. Can I stay up late? No. Can I do this, that? Anything you ask, the answer is no. You may think to yourself that, well, I didn't feel loved as a child because I never got anything. So therefore, love would be the opposite of that. Love would be telling me yes, right? And so a lot of people, a lot of us, most of us, the majority of us, we have had experiences ever since we're little, and we start defining for ourselves what love looks like. And usually what we say love looks like is coming from the painful experiences that we've had. And so a lot of it is tied in, you know, to more so how we as children determined situations to be, and not as adults. And so I find a lot of the times when we are looking at things like issues that we're having in our adult life, we have to revisit our earliest memories of when we were defining these things. So, for example, love. What is love to you? Think back to when you were a child. What are the ways that you learned love, right? So one person might say, you know, my mom always spent time with me. That's how I learned love. My dad always took me on trips. That's how I learned love. I always got hugs and kisses, right? That's how I learned love. I always got rewarded when I did good things. That's how I learned love. So as a child now, you're here experiencing life and you are putting together in your mind, this is what love is. And as you're growing, you're experiencing negative and positive things, and you're putting it into these categories. This person loves me because they did all of the things that you say love is, right? And all of those things are based on your experience, what you've seen on TV. Like you could be watching TV and you see a family eating dinner together and they're laughing and you're like, well, my family doesn't eat dinner together. Maybe my family doesn't love me. Maybe we don't have love in this family. So this is the type of things that, you know, children do, right? Children are trying to figure out their world, how they fit in, right, to the world and how the world is relating to them. And love is a big thing, right? Love, are they being accepted? Are they not? So even when they go into school, right, this person loves me, this person doesn't love me. It's all based on like experience and treatment. And we start making these, you know, beliefs around what love is and what love isn't. So fast forward now to being an adult, right? Or just, you know, your first boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case is. But now you're getting into relationships. We're just going to talk about relationships, romantic relationships for now. So you get into your relationship and your definition of love has been given to you by your childhood experience, by whatever you've seen in your programming, TV, religion, all of these things, your parents hearing, you know, even your parents getting into arguments, right? If you're in an abusive home and your parents fought physically or you heard arguing, you may say, you know, this is not love, right? My mom was getting abused or my dad or whatever. And so if somebody loves me, this will never happen. Okay, so now you are in an adult relationship and this person yells at you one day, right? They yell. And you're like, immediately, wow, they're yelling, reminds me of my abusive dad. That means this person doesn't love me, right? That person could be yelling because in their family, that's what they learned. Everybody yelled. And so for them, they're not loving you. They're not yelling at you because they don't love you. They're just yelling at you because that's how they've learned the acceptable way of communicating in a relationship. That's all they saw. They saw their parents yelling and stuff, and then it was hugs and kisses, and that's it. So they're not even thinking that their way of expressing is saying, I don't love you, right? And so we continue interacting with our own understanding of what love is, and other people have their own understanding of what love is. And this is way beyond like love languages. This is literally people are having different ideas about what love is because as children, we were experiencing life and we started forming beliefs around certain things, love being one of them. So now we have basically children, right, in adult bodies. And what I'm trying to say is that when you make determinations or definitions about certain things as a child, then your body develops, but you still have whatever you determined or whatever you defined something to be. It's still your child mind that you use. You never really re-examined it to put it in light of other things. You know what I mean? Like as an adult, you never did that. You're just kind of, you know, from the time you're little, you continue having interactions with friends, family, with friends, you get into school, then you have your boyfriend. You're not really adjusting what you learned as a child. Love is or love isn't, right? And then finally, now you're in a relationship, and then this person is, you know, maybe trying to love you the best they know how, because if that person was in a family where however love took place for them was okay, and in your family it was the opposite, then obviously you guys are going to clash. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that that you don't love each other or appreciate each other. It just means that your idea of what love is going to be skewed because of your own experience. Okay, so that's one part of it. The next part would be actually determining as an adult what is love, right? What is love? And really examining yourself to see where did your ideas of love come from, and if your ideas of love are actually valid, right? Like, is that actually love? And so if we go back to, I remember one person called me, it's just coming to my mind. One person called me this week and he was saying, you know, he was talking about his need for like like outside approval and all of this sort of stuff. And I was saying to him, you know, like, it works both ways, right? Where you can have somebody who experience something negative. Okay, let me give the example. Just stay with me, okay? You could experience as a child, if everybody was saying to you, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful, and that's all you heard your whole life, you're so beautiful, always from the outside, right? Then you become an adult, let's say you move to another city, and nobody tells you you're beautiful. Then you start having an issue, right? Because it's like, well, don't they think I'm beautiful? Because you move to another place and no one is telling you that, right? And so it could also happen where there's a little child who no one ever says that they're beautiful. They just live. No one is ever complimenting them or anything. Then they move to another place and then everyone is telling them that they're beautiful, right? They could start thinking like, if these people here think I'm beautiful, is it possible that the people who didn't tell me that I was beautiful didn't think I was beautiful? Right? So both people, the child who was raised in an environment where they were always complimented, and the child who was raised in an environment where they were not complimented at all, could both face the same issue where once their environment changes or once they're exposed to another environment, they are still insecure. They still don't know, right? One child is saying, you need to tell me I'm beautiful for me to know I'm beautiful. Another child is saying, well, because you're telling me I'm beautiful, I'm wondering if the people who didn't tell me I'm beautiful think I'm beautiful. Now, change that to love, right? This is exactly what happens. You have gone through your life determining what love is. And so when you experience a person who doesn't give you the thing in the way that you're used to getting it, you now start questioning, right? And it works both ways, like I said. So let's go back to the beauty example, right? The issue is that both of these children never developed a true sense of self-worth within themselves, okay, within themselves. That person who was always told, you're beautiful, always depended on outside recognition to affirm them that they're beautiful. Another person never got it. And when they are getting it, now it's like they need it to know that they are, because they never got it before and they don't have it within themselves. So if they had it within themselves, it wouldn't matter if people never said it to them, because they would know I am beautiful. This is the same way that it is with love. Because we don't love ourselves, and most of us are never taught to love ourselves, our true selves, properly, when we encounter, well, first of all, before we even encounter people, if you don't love yourself, well, you have to first know what you're loving. So most people may not know who they are. So most people don't know who they are. And so it's hard for them to love themselves because they don't know who they are. They don't know who they're loving. So that's the first thing, knowing who you are, accepting who you are, and then loving who you found yourself to be. So because most people haven't gone through that process, like that's a process you should be going through when you're very young, right? Having parents that will help you to see yourself, to know yourself, and then to love what you find, and to be able to change the things that you don't like about yourself, understand it, and change it in love, right? Not self-condemnation or anything or judgment, but just through love. And so now by the time you get to being an adult, you know who you are and you love who you are. A person who knows who they are and loves who they are chooses a partner that will appreciate who they are and who would love who they are. And so what's happening is that most people are not knowing who they are, not loving who they are, not accepting who they are, and getting into relationships with people who also are oblivious to who that person is. Most people are putting on an image of who they are. They're creating something to love, right? Usually they're looking at, okay, this is how people look, this is how people act. I will look like that, I will act like that, and then people could love that. But if you know that that thing that you've created is not really you, it's gonna be hard for you to accept that anybody else actually loves you, because you know that what you're showing them is not real. So when a man is saying like, I love you, just an example, when a man is saying, oh, I love you so much, I love how you're into this and you're into that, and you look this way and look that way. If you know that you're faking it, if you know that that's not really your personality, if you know you're not really being real with them about what you like, what you don't like, if you know that, they're like, oh, I love your hair and your hair is fake. If they're like, oh, I love your skin tone and you're wearing makeup all the time, you're gonna know that this person is just liking the shell, like it's not really who you are. you're going to be wondering, well, what if I didn't have this hair? What if I remove this makeup? What if I, was honest about what I like and I don't like? Then maybe that person wouldn't love me. Okay. So we have to realize when we're saying, I'm in a relationship and I'm giving love to this person and they're not receiving the love, or they're abusing my love, you have to realize, well, do you love yourself? Because how are you in a situation where you're loving somebody? How did you choose somebody, right? How did you choose somebody who cannot receive your love? And most times the answer is that in the beginning, when that person was chosen, you were most likely in a place where you didn't really actually have a good understanding of who you are, or like even self-love. So what usually happens is that while people are growing, right? So year one, you're kind of, okay, let's just say maybe you're a little bit shallow, right? I'm just using that word. It's easy to understand. So you're not really into like, coming to know who exactly you are and what you're about, and self-love, that hasn't started yet. So you meet this person, you're just kind of, let's have fun, we like vacationing, we like going out, we like whatever similar things. That's all it's about. Then you get into relationship year one. Year two, you start, trying to go deeper with yourself. Then you start realizing certain things about yourself. And what ends up happening is that you're growing into who you are. You're accepting who you are. You want to show more of who you are. You want to love more. You're loving yourself more, so you want to love more. And then that person who you are is not the person who you were. And the person who you are is not the person who matches in vibration to the person who you're now with. Right? So it ends up being a situation of like, can you and this other person be on this same page? Right? Can you and this other person be on the same page to be like, okay, do we love ourselves? And if we love ourselves, are we being ourselves with each other? And if we're being true to who we are with each other, does the other person appreciate me in my honesty, in my authenticity, being who I really am? Do you love me how I really am? This is what I look like. This is what I sound like. This is the things I like, I don't like. This is what I want in life. Are you good with me? And you can't get to that place with another person until you're good with you. So it all has to start first with defining what love is, right? Having a proper definition of what love is, and then kind of building upon that, right? But you have to know who you are, see who you are, accept who you are, love who you are, the things about yourself that you want to change in a loving manner, right? Being accountable, being responsible for your own self, you change those things. And not being afraid to show somebody who you actually really are, and allow someone to love you for who you actually are, because then you can love someone else for who they actually are. And then you're going to look back at it and say, well, I'm giving my love to this person. Are you really giving love to this person, right? It goes back to that definition of what is love, because what you think you may be doing for that person is actually not love. You're saying, but I'm giving them love. I'm spending time with them. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But maybe that's just your definition of love, because that's your childhood stuff, right? Love is accepting somebody as they are, their real self. And that love is going to, if you see that person as they are and you accept them as they are, the same thing you do for yourself. You see them as, you know them, you see them, you accept them. The things in them that has to change, you're willing to work through together without judgment, in a loving manner. It's like the same way you love yourself is how you love other people. But how can you love other people if you're not loving yourself? Right? So it has to start with you. When you realize things in your relationship, stop looking at the person, look back at yourself and say, well, am I expecting this person to respect me and I don't respect myself? Because you're giving your love to this person and you're saying they're abusing it. Are you abusing your own self? You see what I'm saying? So it's a big topic. It could go in many, many directions, but the point is that if you, basically you can't expect somebody to love you if you're not loving your own self. You can't expect somebody to, to choose you and you're not choosing yourself. And I'm not saying to get into this whole thing of like, I don't need nobody. I don't know. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to find like who you are. You have to be able to see yourself, love yourself, accept yourself. And from that place, give love. The same love you're giving to yourself is the only love you could give to somebody else. If you're not loving yourself, you cannot love somebody else. So yes, you're in a relationship, but you have to first look at yourself, and you can only fix yourself. You can only change yourself. And from there, maybe perhaps you will align with the other person. Maybe they'll be inspired by the work you're doing on yourself. And then from there, you will grow together or you'll grow apart. But either way, you should be who you truly are and allow, while you're at that, that high vibration of being you to the fullest and loving you right there, you will attract the person who is for you if it's not already that person who you're with. I hope that made sense. Let me just take a quick look at the chat to see if there's any questions or comments. Okay. So I think we're good. Guys, I hope that made sense. I will look out for your comments. I hope it was helpful and made sense. But I will look out for your comments. And if you have any more questions on this topic, please feel free to leave your comment below. And we will see you again next Sunday for another love story. And see you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.